It looks like most of us are here now. There are 13 of us. And I forgot to ask someone to say an opening prayer. So I will say the opening prayer, if that's okay. We'll start with an opening prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank thee for the opportunity to meet remotely for this safety committee meeting, and we pray for thy guidance, for inspiration in our jobs. Help us to know what we can do to add to the safety of the department. Please bless us with wisdom. Help us to communicate well. We thank thee for thy many blessings. We ask for a special blessing that this pandemic will end as soon as possible, and we'll be able to get back to normal lives, and missionary work will be able to move forth at full force, and the temples will be able to reopen. We thank thee for thy blessings upon us, and we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, very good. Let's just make sure that we have everybody invited here. Everyone's in. We have Denny, Robert, Beckel and Charles, Corey, David Smith's here. We have iPhone. I don't know who iPhone is. We have Jaron, Jake, Jonathan, Leif, and Mark. Welcome, everybody. I am going to share my screen. And here we go. There is the agenda. Please give me the thumbs up if you can see my screen. Awesome. We will start today, as normal, with a presentation from David Smith, Safety Director for BYU, and he has an awesome presentation for us. I guess what I should do is allow you to share your screen here, David. So I'm going to stop sharing mine, and I'm going to allow share multiple screen sharing participants. Okay. Is that working for you, David?
Yes. Thank you, guys. Let me see if can you see this?
Yes, looks good.
See this. Can you see it okay? Is it a big screen or is it showing notes? It doesn't matter. It is.
It's showing on the big screen, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I wanted to share with you guys a quick little presentation I put together just a couple slides on prevention is key, and it kind of relates to what we talked about last month. We talked a little bit about hierarchy of controls. You know, some controls are better than others, like for instance, engineering controls, elimination versus, you know, PP and policies and some of those other things that are not as effective or have as long of a life cycle. Again, all these controls are positive and they're good, but some of them are better than others. So with that being said, there's two types of prevention I want to chat with you guys about. And then I'm going to share with you guys an incident that happened this, I think it was this last week. And I want to kind of give you guys an update on that. You've heard about it. So there's two types of prevention, proactive prevention, and then there's reactive. So proactive basically is if somebody, it's before somebody gets hurt or something gets damaged, we put controls in place, like the hierarchy of controls we talked about before, and to mitigate it, to prevent it from happening. And then reactive is, you know, something happens, somebody gets hurt, and then we put in controls into place afterwards, you know, lessons learned, things that we could do better. So it was about a week or two ago, we had an incident, and some of you may have heard about it because sometimes they get spread across campus pretty quick, some of these incidents. But we had, and this is an actual picture from the incident, not the person, that's a stock photo I grabbed offline, but the photo of the bottle on the ground, you can see it's nitric acid. It's a very dangerous acid to get onto your skin. It's very corrosive. You can see the floor kind of started eating away at the floor immediately when it hit the ground. But we had an employee who was putting these chemical bottles on a cart, flat cart. I should have a picture of the cart, but I don't. But the bottle slid off the cart, dropped on the ground, and it broke open, as you guys can see right here. And the acid came up, splashed back on the individual. They're wearing a lab coat, which was good, which helps protect them a little bit from some chemical, that spray and stuff like that. But some of the chemical landed on their face, and actually some of it got in their eye, which caused a major concern to us. So we quickly had to work on this case in action to get this person medical care. So the person was trained well. They did the right things. They walked straight out, rushed over to the safety shower, turned it on, got underneath it, washed all the chemical off their skin, put their eye in the eye wash to get their eye flushed out because they could feel a little bit of the acid in there. And just so you guys know, this acid on skin burns through fairly quickly. It damages tissue really quickly. So it's one of the more dangerous acids on campus that we use. And they went to the hospital, went to the burn unit, and we were lucky that the person didn't lose their vision or their eye. So it's a pretty serious incident. And when we went back through it, the department, we usually just work with departments and we kind of think through things like how can we prevent things like this. But just hearing that story, what do you think about we're about to say some mitigations here in a minute, but would you say it's proactive or reactive prevention? What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, this time it's reactive.
Okay, yeah. Kind of, it's reactive in that we're going to put controls in place to prevent it again from happening, right? But there may be some proactive things we did too, like some of the protocols, the training, and how to respond to it. If this person didn't respond the way they did, we might have been dealing with a loss of eye or visibility and some other things could really hurt them. So, but ultimately reactive, right? Like you were saying. So that being said, some of the things they did were they got new carts. They made a policy and a new engineering control, as well as getting rid of the old carts in those areas, putting carts that had lips on them that would retain the chemicals better, that they couldn't fall off. Now, by law, they weren't required to do any of that, and by law, they weren't required to change their PPE because these are closed bottles. But they decided as a group that they would, with these high hazardous chemicals, they would wear goggles and they would wear certain types of PPE, and they created these policies to kind of extra protect them from these more hazardous chemicals. So the reason I share you this story is that it is a really good example of a group that came together, saw that there was maybe something missed that they could improve in their workspace, and then they implemented some new things that were above and beyond what they were required to do, right? To help them try to make a safer workplace for their people. And their whole team kind of agreed on it together, which was really cool how collaboratively they did it. So I think the challenge is, this is sometimes I show you guys these incidents because I think it's really good examples of real life scenarios happening around us or close to home. And it shows you kind of the interactions that these groups are having, which are really positive, I think, in how they're responding to these incidents when they occur. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. I want to end it with my little presentation with a 3-minute poem. Yeah, I'm not going to say it though. I'm going to let John Denver say it. And it's called The Ambulance in a Valley. And it has to do with prevention. And I thought you guys would find this interesting. So Dave, I'm going to try to play this. Can you guys see this?
Yes, looks good.
Let me get the volume up on my screen so you can hear it.
Not the tenets that he ought to give up.
Okay, here we go.
I'm very much into preventive measures, whether it has to do with health care or crime or war. Now, I visit the chiropractor periodically in Aspen, and I found in my chiropractor's office a poem that deals with the issue of prevention that I would like to share with you people. This is called The Ambulance Down in the Valley. 'Twas a dangerous cliff, as they freely confessed, though to walk near its edge was quite pleasant. But over the side slipped a duke and a prince, and it had fooled many a peasant. The people all said something had to be done, though their projects did not at all tally. Some said put a fence around the edge of the cliff. Others, an ambulance down in the valley. The lament of the crowd was profound and so loud as their hearts overflowed with great pity. But the ambulance carried the cry of the day as it spread to the neighboring cities. A collection was made to accumulate aid, and dwellers in highway and alley gave dollars and cents not to furnish a fence, but an ambulance down in the valley. For the cliff is all right if you're careful, they said, and if folks ever trip and are falling, it's not the slipping and sliding that hurts so much as the shock when they're stopping. And so on for years as these mishaps occurred, quick forth would the rescuers sally to pick up the victims who fell from the cliff with the ambulance down in the valley. Said one in his plea, "It's a marvel to me that you give so much greater attention to repairing results than to curing the cause. Why, you'd much better aim at prevention. The mischief, of course, should be stopped at its source. Come, friends and good neighbors, let's rally. It makes far better sense to rely on a fence than an ambulance down in the valley." He's wrong in his head, the majority said. He would end all our earnest endeavors. He's the kind of a jerk that would halt our good work, but we will support it forever. Don't we pick up them all just as quick as they fall and treat them with care quite liberally? A superfluous fence is of no consequence if the ambulance works in the valley. Well, this story is queer as I've given it here, though things oft occur which are stranger. More humane, we assert, to repair all the hurt than the plan of removing the danger. Before it all ends, it's time to begin to attend to these things rationally. Yes, build up the fence and let us dispense with the ambulance down in the valley.
Anyways, I thought you guys would appreciate that. It's kind of an old poem back in the 1800s. So, just a challenge to everybody and to me myself is keep finding ways to prevent some of these, proactively prevent some of these injuries happening outside our controls and that we've discussed and get creative and work together. And that's all I've got to say. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, David. So, David, how is that the person doing that was injured there in that incident?
Good. I can't go too much into detail because they're still working on it and there's still stuff going on with the doctors and things. But all I know is that it could have been much worse if we didn't have an eye wash station where it was, and she wasn't trained as well as she was. So there's a kudos to her employer, her supervisors who did some good response training for these types of incidents for them. So they did a good job and she did a good job, making sure she understood the training and knew what to do. So, but she's doing fine, which is great. It could have been much worse though, which scared us.
Now, for all of you members of the committee, you need to be aware that there is a training for eye washes. Some of the shops have that required for their group because it's more of a danger for some shops than others. But for those of you who maybe don't have that as one of your required trainings, just be aware that there is one in the training LMS. It's called Basic Safety Emergency Eye Wash and Trench Hoses or something like that. But you can do a search on that and see that if you'd like to. I'm going to share my screen again. And here is our agenda. Let me move this back here. Okay, the next item on our agenda, we want to talk about, and we'd like your input on this, David, if you can help us with it. There's been a question about HAZCOM requirements. You know, we have rolled out this new MSDS Online program to all of the shops. They have it on their computers. They have the little QR codes posted where they can have they can access the website on their phones very easily, and it's rolled out completely now. But Corey had a question. Do you want to ask your question, Corey?
Yeah, sure. So in our HAZCOM books, at least in the custodial department, we have like 8 or 9 pages in the front that talks about hazardous communication, our list of hazardous chemicals. There's even some pipe color notifications. There's some of the HAZCOM labeling things that are in here. Is that still necessary, or can we just use the website and the QR codes?
Yeah, you could use the website and the QR codes. There's a big argument that's been out there for like 20 years, ever since things started going digital, Corey, about, well, what if the power goes out and things like that, right? And so how would you respond, right? And so there's that. OSHA really just says if you can pull them up within, I think it's like a reasonable time frame, and a lot of people have said that time frame was like 24 hours or something, or immediately, like for instance, well, if somebody gets hurt, you want to be able to know exactly what to do with first aid right away. So a good thing to do is train your employees how to respond in a first aid incident with those SDSs. So if they're trained well enough to know, like some of your more serious chemicals you're dealing with, Corey, and everybody else, whatever chemicals you guys are working with, and they can respond to them, having them online is a reasonable way, in my opinion. I've always felt this way. It's a reasonable way to say I can pull them up quickly, as long as people know how to do it and you train
I'm pretty sure all this stuff in the front is old stuff that was, when HAZCOM first came about.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we didn't need to keep it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to keep up those old books. I've done them paper style before. I had a company I used to work for that would hold them online and on paper. And it was a mess because if they ever updated an SDS, which is why the church went to the SDS program online, if they ever changed an SDS, like for instance, if they find out a chemical, let's say 10 years ago, they didn't consider a chemical as a carcinogen, right? And now through research and studies through NIOSH and these other groups, they find the chemical now is a carcinogen, of whatever it may be. You would have an old SDS that wouldn't tell you that, right? So the new stuff, that's why I like the digital, because the online system to the church, it keeps it updated.
So I'm not too, the SDS sheet makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not my concern.
Oh.
What we have is the first sections before the SDS sheets, there's sheets that like hazardous chemical inventory. It's an inventory of all the chemicals that we have.
Oh.
Do you still need to keep that kind of stuff?
Well, I think if you guys are keeping them, if you're keeping all your SDSs online, I mean, you basically have an inventory of everything. Of not the product itself, like the quantities, but you have an inventory of what you've got. So I would say, I don't think there's a need.
Okay. All right.
Hey, let me weigh in here.
Am I wrong?
I do know that the MSDS Online website does not really include any training. It's just a repository for SDSs. So I don't think it replaces anything that you use as training for your group.
There we go. Yeah, that's true.
Because it does have both.
So it's just your repository. Now, if the OSHA requires that we keep an inventory in the workplace, and if you create a repository for your shop in the MSDS Online, that will serve as your required inventory. If you do not have your own repository there, then you probably should keep an inventory in your workplace independent of MSDS Online.
Okay.
I'd agree with that.
Okay,
That's good call, Dave.
We can work on that. Okay, that makes sense too.
Does that answer your questions, Corey?
Yeah, I think so. Because the way that I look at a lot of this stuff is training that we can do in another place. But the hazardous chemical inventory, I knew we needed to have, but if we can do it online, that's fine. That's great.
Yeah, in fact, it's better than the paper stuff. It's always up to date. the university has put the option in with this company that they will automatically update our SDSs as they get new updates. And so we don't even have to worry about that. That's really awesome.
Great. That sounds great.
Okay, let's go to number 3 on the agenda. And you all need to know that the lockout tagout course has been replaced with a more robust course that is actually, it addresses both lockout and tagout, and machine guarding. It's a single course, it's 20 minutes long, and the old lockout tagout course has been retired. So it's not even available anymore. The reason for that is with some of our incidents recently, it's been a combination of lockout, tagout, and machine guarding. And so the decision was made in risk management that it would be better for us to have a combined training that is required to be renewed yearly in the place of this. It's really quite a nice training, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's a change. You may be asked by people in your group, well, where's the old lockout, tagout? It doesn't exist anymore. It's a combined. Any questions about that? Did I explain that properly, David?
Yeah, and this came as a result of an incident we had up at one of the buildings where we found people had lockout tagout training but not machine guard training, and we got a citation for it and found a void in our training programs.
And those two topics are really they go together. It makes sense to have them as a single training. Okay, number 4. This is an announcement. There is a brand new training called ammonia safety. It's on the training LMS now. It's about, I want to say about 10 minutes long. And we've created that, risk management has created that because we have a large amount of ammonia in the Culinary Support Center facility up there by the new Heritage Halls, the old creamery, creamery production area. And that's how they refrigerate all of their products there. They use ammonia for that. And it's quite a dangerous, it's a hazardous situation at ammonia. We also have ammonia, a lesser concentration of ammonia in the heating plant. And if there is an ammonia leak, it can cause real problems. People who work on it need to have respirators and be fit tested and trained properly. And so this new ammonia training was created to address this need. We showed it to all of the foremen, all the shop supervisors last week. And Dennis made a decision that for all the shops that report up through him, he wants everyone to training once, just because there's a possibility that many of the shops could be working in that environment. They wouldn't be repairing them on an ammonia leak, but they need to be aware of the dangers if there is a leak while they're there doing carpentry or plumbing or whatever they're doing up there. So we have added that at Dennis's request to the tracking list for all of his shops. For those of you whose shops do not report up through Dennis, this afternoon I'm going to be showing that to Jim Saka group, and they will make a decision whether or not to require it of their employees as well. But that's where that stands, new ammonia safety training. Are there any questions about that from any of you? All right, number 5, an announcement. There are some vehicle backup cameras and forklift warning lights available now. They've been purchased by Risk Management, and the auto shop has them. And if there's a need out in any of these shops for those to be put on vehicles in your areas, just contact the auto shop. I think the shop will still be have to pay for the installation, but the actual camera and warning lights they're free. They're a gift. They're our Christmas gift from Risk Management. So that's available. Please let your shop supervisors know about that, and if they want it, to contact the auto shop. All right, number 6. There are some safety flyers called What Would Cosmo Do? And I know that Charles has really liked this. He's tries to make this a motto for his life. But I wanted to show you how to get those flyers. So I'm going to navigate to the website of risk management. We're going to put in risk.byu.edu. And when you get to this, we'll go there. When you bring up the website, you go into environmental health and safety link, and then there's the safety and health programs link on that page. You click into that, and then it lists all of the programs risk management has created for the various topics, ergonomics, forklift safety, so forth. In each of these programs, there is an executive summary, which is just a page long, that gives a brief overview of what we do here at BYU to address, for example, lockout, tagout training. And then there's the full program. These are PDFs, so you can read them online or just print them out. Then there's a full program that could be 20 or 30 pages long, goes into a lot of detail. In addition to that, they are, in fact, I think, I'm trying to remember which ones have them now. I think
Lockout's got one.
Lockout, okay. So we'll go into lockout, tagout. Oops. I'm getting a little broken page here. Let me.
Looks like our website just crashed. Sorry, Dave.
let's go back and see if we can enter it again. Okay, so we're going to, this is good because it's a good review of how to drill down in here. So environmental health and safety, and then you go to health and safety programs, and then we're going to go to lockout, tagout. Oops, maybe we should try a different one. Let's go to, I know there's some others in here that you've, fall protection. I think we have some. Nope, not fall protection. Let's go back. Lockout, tagout, laser. Oh, machine guarding. I know we have some in machine guarding. So you can see here in the machine guarding location, you have the programs, the executive summary, which is just a page long. Then you have the full program. These are both PDFs. And then underneath there are some training resources for these. And these here, this one has 5 of these What Would Cosmo Do flyers. For example, you can click on that and it brings up this flyer, What Would Cosmo Do for safeguards against causes of injury for machine guarding. These are so that you can just print them out and you can post them in your area if you feel that there's a need for a particular training to be posted on your bulletin board. And it gives contact information. It gives just quick little bullets about what to do or what not to do for the various parts of this training, which I think is very helpful. And you can see there's one for general, one for methods, one for the basics, and then one for do's and don'ts. But these are all Cosmo, What Would Cosmo Do flyers. So you need to be aware that that's available. If you feel a need, print them out and put them up on your bulletin boards. And eventually, these will be, there'll be What Would Cosmo Do posters for everything, right, David?
Oh, you show up?
Yes.
Yeah, the goal is to try to, the policies are so long, Dave. The goal of this is really just try to help us like micro learn some of these things that are important within the policies, because the policies can be like 30 pages plus. And so it's just those are really helpful to kind of get people to remember specific things.
As the safety officer for your shop, there's a possibility that your supervisor will say, well, we're having a meeting. Can you give us a little safety presentation? This would be a great way to do that. You could print out a handout for each of the people for a topic that you choose. Anyway, it's a great resource. Thank you, David, for making this available to us. All right. Now we have a number 7 here. We have been informed that when we want to recognize someone in a special manner for safety, we use the CIRA Awards program that is on the HR website. And there's really, the CIRA Awards is based on the criteria values. And there's really not one of those values that is specifically safety. I was asked if maybe we could add an S to criteria and have the S stand for safety. And I'm a little reluctant to make that recommendation just because this was created on the vice president level and they put a lot of effort and thought into putting this program together. As we look at the criteria though, you can use several of these criteria that would relate to safety, like competency is one of them. There's a C for criteria. And if a person is safe, he's being competent. And so you can use them there, but we thought we would have a discussion with this group. If there's a strong feeling that we should take this up the flagpole, maybe we should pursue asking them to update the criteria values to include safety. Are there any thoughts about this you'd like to share?
Well, one of the things, I'm the one that brought this up to David from Bill. Anyway, you know, yeah, you can use competency, but when you read the paragraph with competency, which I have all that stuff right here, as you read it, there's nothing says being safe in there. It says you're doing it responsibly, your skills and whatnot. And as you read through all of them, nothing specifically talks safety. So we're thinking, why not just add the S? And yeah, it was created by vice presidents, both of which have retired. So why not make it better?
What do you think, guys?
Is there one you can just add it into the description of one of them?
I tried
Change
that.
the criteria you're saying that so
I
that
don't have the criteria in front of me, but I don't know. Is there somewhere we could just add it in the end of a paragraph or something in one of the criteria?
I actually tried that, and it didn't exactly work.
Yeah. I actually think it's a good idea if they'll pass it. Safety is a pretty important thing. You're talking about people's lives. I don't know what gets more important than that.
Yeah, so, you know, if we could come up with a good paragraph like with these, say, so David, if you could maybe forward the thing that you got from me to everybody, then they can see how everything's worded directly, and we could go over it. You know, maybe not this time, but another time, then everybody's reading it, they see what it says, and we could be thinking about it for the next one.
Yeah, okay, I will forward that out. David Smith, if we do make a recommendation, would it be better to have it come from risk management?
Yeah, I think we could push it up. Yeah, we are often in the meetings that I think with that group. So especially with the COVID stuff going on, it could be a really good thing. In fact, I got to tell you guys, we're starting to develop some new stuff that in later in March, we're trying to move on regarding developing some new training resources and a website for supervisors. And this could be a good thing to share with them. I think it's a really great idea.
How about,
sounds like Andy's trying to make criteria great again, so I like that. It's fun.
how about if I take a stab at a paragraph that would address safety for the S? Now, I have to kind of alert you that criteria is really not the plural of criteria. Criteria is actually the plural of criterion. And so there, I don't know if that would be an issue with anybody on that level, since we
I
are.
don't see how it would when you look at how they wrote Sarah.
So, but anyway, that's a possibility that someone might have a problem with that. I'll put together a draft and we'll share it in next month's meeting and talk about it. And then maybe we could turn it over to you, David, and see where you want to go with it. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, it's a great plan. I'm glad to help. I think it's an awesome idea. And I'm with you guys. I've had a hard time. I've written a couple of words for people for safety and it's been tricky. Totally agree.
Okay, let's proceed that way. Awesome.
That's what Cosmo would do if he had a voice at the table at the vice president's meeting, but he also would let John Denver's poem about the ambulance be shared as well. That would probably be a defining factor.
There you go.
You think Cosmo would do that, huh, Charles?
Yes, sir. But I also suggest that we let Cosmo do the next training on slips, trips, and falls. That would be quite entertaining.
I would.
Read that poem for that training?
No, just let Cosmo do some of his flips and antics.
Oh, all right.
Maybe he probably could do ladder safety as well and trampoline safety.
That's awesome.
Harnesses.
Okay. Next, we have the concerns log. I kept the new training LMS on there for one more time. I think I'll drop it off next time. Does anyone have any question about the new training LMS at this point? Are you comfortable with it? I have created all the curricula for each shop. You can actually do a search on the shop name and it will bring the curriculum up for your shop. And anyway, we should be completely there with this new training LMS. I don't know if there's anything else to tweak at this point. All right, on vehicle number B, vehicle ergonomics Y train, that's still in the queue to be updated. I'll reach out to Amber and see where that stands at this point. I should have done that before this meeting. I didn't. I will do that though, and I'll include it in the minutes. Vehicle speed at the material handling area. This was brought up last month. We've done a little bit with this. Let me show you what I was able to find on the online.
While you're looking at that, we talked about that in our meeting as drivers out here at MHJ today.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come up with, I know it said for one sign, possible making it a mobile one to move around or getting two, one for egress and regress.
Oh, for leaving as well, huh?
Yes, because they're done, so they think they can just fly on out of here.
Oh, okay. This is about what one of those costs, $2,500, $3,000 for the kind we want. You see there are a couple of them that are less than 1,000, but these do not show your speed. They just blink when you're going over the speed. I talked to Wade in the police office, a friend of mine, and he suggested one of these yellow ones might be the best. And so then I spoke with Ole Smith and asked him if he was okay with us making this recommendation to the traffic committee. And he said yes. He suggested that we not put it right at the entrance though, that we put it inside as they're driving after they've entered, so that he thinks that would be a better location than right at the entrance, because people slow down to enter and then they kind of speed up as they're going in. And so I wrote an email to Nathan Summers, who is the chair of the traffic committee, and asked him to please, I listed some of these three yellow ones as the ones we're interested in. And I asked him to please put this on the agenda for their next meeting and let us know if they approve of this. But we have Ole's backing, which is a big plus. And that's where it stands at this point. Now, I know that we were going to talk about doing some paint and putting up additional signs. And that's what you were talking about, Andy, the additional signs.
Yeah.
So that would not be, they would not be additional speeds, electronic signs, but just additional static signs like we have up there right now, right?
Well, even if it was additional electronic signs, you know, because 10 miles an hour is really slow, and most people think they're going it when they're not. Because I talked to somebody just yesterday that came through here, and I asked them if they knew the speed. They said yes. I said, were you going that fast? They said yes. I said no, because they were going quite a bit faster.
Okay, so let's get those locations. Have you determined your recommended locations for those, Andy?
No.
Okay, so let's determine some recommended locations and then bring that forward independent of this electronic sign. And then we were going to talk about doing some painting, and I think if I remember right, it was Jared Cowan who is going to do a little bit of research on where that. I'll reach out to Jared and see where he stands with that. I don't think he's with us right now.
Has the traffic committee actually looked at that area down there? I mean, it seems like there could be some stop signs and stuff put in, like coming from the east side that way. You put a stop sign there, maybe limit some of the traffic.
You know, I could go and talk to Nathan and ask him if the committee wouldn't just do a complete review of the area. Shall I do that?
That would be very good.
Every time I go down there, I feel like I'm going to get hit.
Okay, I will.
Hey, you got to walk out here all day.
I will ask for a complete review to be done of the area. Are there other comments about that speed at the MHA?
David, I got a question for you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Where you were showing those yellow signs did not include the posted speed. So would you be including a posted speed sign and the digital sign so that they know what it is they're comparing to?
Good point. Yeah, we'd need to do that. In fact, maybe what we could do is keep the sign that is the posted sign up there and just add this next to it.
Yeah.
So they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. Good
Yeah,
point.
that's a good point. And our sign shop can make the posted signs.
Right. Anything else? Okay. Are there any new items for the concern log that you'd like us to add? Anybody? This is a good point to bring up something new.
I've got one, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes. Who is this? Is this
Steve Brown.
Steve? Oh, great. Steve, go ahead.
Let me try to share my video. Should we be responsible or have any input on first aid kits in our shop or the warehouse carrying, the first aid type supplies?
Can you give us some guidance on that, David?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you don't want to have like I guess you just review it with your group and decide what you think is most important for you guys to have there. It's kind of an interesting topic. I don't want to go too far into it, but a lot of companies actually got rid of their first aid kits to try to motivate people to go to the student health center and to medical facilities. A lot of best practice people probably would push that. But if you have little stuff, that like little band-aids, little things that happen, I mean, you guys probably just stock it, whatever you think you need, and I just make sure to mention your employees, hey, if you have injuries, let me know too, just so you guys know what's going on if people keep getting hurt somewhere, so you guys can look into it and say, hey, we probably should do something here because people keep getting their finger cut here with this, kind of thing. Does that help?
So last year I got with Carl because I found a pretty good brand of Band-Aid. And he got some, but there's also a brand that has these waterproof ones, and they're really good. But the only place to get them is from Cintas, And I
Yeah.
think they're a little pricey, but man, if you clean your skin and you put these things on, they last for days, even showering.
Awesome.
Anyway, I just, I'm trying to see if we can maybe get some of that in at the warehouse, and then if everyone can kind of know about it and maybe restock their first aid kits in their shops. Because if mine is it's a bunch of old crap in there that it doesn't really get used or recycled, and even some of the stuff you get from the warehouse, they're just Band-Aids that leave a big sticky residue to your fingers, and then you have days of that stuff wearing off, and when they get too old. Anyway, just something now that it's wintertime, it's dry, our hands start cracking and hurting. And they also have a really cool sliver removal tool that this Cintas company has. But I just wonder how far I want to pursue it as just a person from the shop, or just have some backing from this committee.
So you're thinking that maybe it would be helpful to have the warehouse stock that particular Band-Aid. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah. I mean, here, if you can see my picture thing, here's a box of what I've got. But this is the MD foam brand, which is still okay. But the waterproof one is just really thin. And once you get it on, it's kind of hard to get off. You got to kind of use a longer fingernail to scratch at your Band-Aid to get it off. But I tell you what, man, they're really nice when you want to try to heal quick without, a Band-Aid falling off all the time.
Will you send me the information on that? I'd be happy to go to the warehouse and ask them if they wouldn't mind stocking this. And then we can, once it's stocked, we can spread word out through this committee that those are available for people to bring in through the warehouse. Would you like to do that?
Yeah. And I have talked to Carl already up there, and he's just trying to get the Cintas rep, to kind of contact him, and because that's the only place I know to get them. I've tried to find them online just to buy them without going through a rep. But for these, you've got to go to a rep of Cintas to get them.
Another resource could be Granger could maybe be another one. They might have it, and I know BYU's got some accounts with them, if that helps.
We do.
Okay.
If you can get me that brand, I can look into it and see where we can source that from. And if that's something that we're going to want to carry in the warehouse, I just have to talk to Kyle Gray and make sure that that's okay with him. But we could talk about stocking that here in the warehouse.
Awesome.
Okay.
I had neglected to even think that we have a representative from the warehouse on our committee, Jonathan. Great.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Take
And
that.
Carl knows about it. And Carl's been great about he found me these foam ones, but the waterproof ones we can't get. So.
Hey,
Okay, send
Jonathan,
that
if you-
information to Jonathan then, okay? Or you can send it to me and I'll forward it to Jonathan if you don't have Jonathan's contact information. And we'll ask him to kind of follow up and give us a report back next time. Does that sound good, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Jonathan, if you need, my ex-son-in-law is a manager for them, for Cintas.
Cintas?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So I got
Good to know.
all right, we'll add that to the concerns list so that we bring it up next time and follow up. Anything else? Okay, very good. Thanks everyone for Zooming in. You have a great day, and it looks like the BYU devotional with President and Sister Worthen will be starting here in about 10 minutes. Enjoy.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
bye
you.
now.